Welcome to the Chat Cave here on McGTV. That's youtube.com/Mike McGTV. And as always, we're your hosts on the Chat Cave here, Mike McG and Max Andrews from Three Geeks Podcast. Welcome back,
Hello,
sir.
hello.
Yep, we basically had a little bit, not a lot of time off, like a month, I think.
Yeah, about that time.
Yeah, just right before big old Wizard World and all those big Batman announcements. So it's good to be back. Just really quick, you can follow us on youtube.com/Mike McGTV or youtube.com/Three Geeks Network or on Twitter at Mike McGTV or at Three Geeks Podcast. That's the one you operate out of, right?
Yes, sir.
All right, good. So, again, some housekeeping stuff really quick. Since Google Plus Hangouts on air broadcasting thing is going to be transferring over to YouTube Live starting on the 12th of September, it's probably going to be a while until you maybe hear something really brand new from us in terms of the Chat Cave. We're going to try out some different ideas about recording and maybe editing it to make it a little bit slimmer and more of a neato package for you. So stay tuned. Well, it'll definitely be around, but obviously with the transition, it'll take some time. And speaking of transitions of one thing to another thing, in this case, comic book characters to the silver screen, we're back again to talk about another DC movie. This one, I guess, this is a Batman-related one. It's got Batman villains in it.
Yeah, and it's got Batman.
Yep, Batman's in it for a whole 5 minutes, or not even that. How much would you estimate Ben Affleck shows up in here?
Oh, it's like 3 solid minutes.
3 solid minutes. There you go. Not even 5 minutes. But hey, here's the thing. 3 minutes of him is actually pretty good in this movie.
You know?
It's pretty solid. There's a lot of stuff in Suicide Squad that really doesn't work. Ben Affleck as Batman is actually okay. Again.
Yeah, with this one, too, I mean, also he had, obviously, a much smaller role in Suicide Squad than he did in Batman vs. Superman. But in this one, I didn't really like what they had Batman doing. You know? I liked Ben Affleck as Batman, but I thought that they could have used him better.
Yeah, we're actually going to probably get into that a little bit down the line here because, we both feel there's a much better way they could have incorporated a lot of stuff into this movie. But let's just get into some of our big thoughts or initial thoughts regarding the recent Suicide Squad event, I guess we'll call it. When I first saw this movie, I'll start off, I guess. I completely understand why people wouldn't like this movie. I was actually okay with it. I'm not head over heels in love with this movie at all. This is just a modicum above Ghostbusters for me, honestly. In the fact that I didn't mind the Ghostbusters reboot, but at the same time, I'm not going to probably revisit it. This one, I don't mind it. I might revisit it just because now that I'm hearing about all the background troubles that this movie had and that there's a completely different cut of this film out there somewhere waiting to be released, I'm sure in its own 3-hour Ultimate Edition, R-rated, everyone says fuck now version. That I'll probably revisit it the same way I did Batman v Superman. I like this one more than Batman v Superman. At least in this one, I felt there were characters I could invest in a little bit just based off of their performances. Will Smith, even though he's not exactly what I was looking for in Deadshot, he's still Will Smith. He's still a charismatic, charming dude. So I still give a crap when stuff happens to him in this. And he actually does have kind of an arc regarding his, his gray area in terms of morality and his daughter. Margot Robbie, I thought, was perfectly fine as Harley Quinn. She actually had some of the funnier lines and moments, and I didn't mind her being a little bit more cartoony in this world. I didn't mind this world having a little bit more silliness to it since we've had depression simulator Gotham and Metropolis for the past two movies. So I was fine with it being at least entertaining. It was at least fun at points. I've got problems with it, most definitely. It's still tried and true with these new DC films. The editing and pacing is a nightmare. The villain is a little bit too much of a mountain for these particular characters to probably have to deal with, and is unnecessary in my opinion. And I wanted to like Jared Leto's Joker, but ultimately my assessment of him is still on the fence because we didn't get enough of him as a character for me to really formulate a strong opinion either way of whether he's good or whether he sucks, because he's in it a little bit more than Batman.
Yeah, just a little. He maybe got 3 minutes 30.
So that's just basically bullet points from my review. I was thinking about making a video log about this, but then I'm like, you know what? I'm gonna probably talk ad nauseum about this with Max at some point. So why not save it until then? And if you've been listening to Three Geeks podcast, you've heard us kind of hint at this stuff anyways already. Max, definitely you've heard, because let's hear it again, Max.
Well, I mean, Suicide Squad, I've already seen it twice. The movie is very fun. And, you don't leave angry that you watched the movie, and that's the major difference it had over Batman versus Superman. Like, they both have glaring problems, but at the end of the day, you don't want to kill yourself after watching Suicide Squad. But, I liked Margot Robbie as Harley Quinn. I liked, Will Smith as Deadshot. I don't know even still if I buy it. But, he doesn't take away from the movie. I just, that may just be a personal thing where I'm not a fan of Will Smith trying to play this hardcore guy.
Yeah, that's the thing. It's like, it's not believable that the most likable actor on the planet can be this guy. I was hoping he could pull it off, but he really didn't. But at the same time, I'm like, well, it's not the end all of everything.
Right. Yeah. No, because I was hoping for a little more, remember Hancock, like at the beginning?
Yeah.
Pretty job of being an asshole then, and I was like, if he could just channel that, but it doesn't really come across. Like, I don't think Will Smith likes playing a dislikable guy or an unlikable guy, so his natural just Will Smithness comes across, and I feel like that's not for Deadshot. But again, it wasn't a terrible experience. And then pretty much all the other characters are kind of just like, you don't really get any real time with a bunch of them.
Yeah.
And I like my favorite unknown to me was Diablo. I really like that guy. I thought he got the best arc, and he had the most. Excuse me. He was the most believable as far as like from the beginning to end, like what was going on. And
as being kind of like, I don't want to use this power. I've been bad, and I've suffered for it, and I don't want to be put in this situation again, but now you've forced me to.
And yeah, so the movie on a whole, it's fun. It's a solid, just action flick if you want to, go see an action flick. But as a Suicide Squad movie, I do have a bunch of problems with it.
Yeah. I'd say like one of the side characters that I feel I engaged in a little bit more, and not because he had a compelling arc or anything like that, but just because for once it was good to finally see this guy look like he's having fun in a movie. Jai Courtney as Boomerang.
Yeah.
I mean, he's not a character by any stretch, in that he's a character I'm going to be relating to or being compelled by in the movie, but it was just fun to see him play this crass, cowardly, unicorn-centric scumbag. Like at the bar scene when they're all like saying like, you're free to go, when Rick Flag's like, you're free to go now. It's no point. And he's just like, yeah, see you assholes later.
Yep.
But then he shows up later for reasons.
Boomerangs always come back.
I think, you know what? I'm kind of wondering if that was a purposeful thing. If there was actually a line of dialogue at one point that they cut out. They're like, that's a little too on the nose.
Yeah. No, but my whole thing is, he started off a villain and a free man. Now, technically, if he's going to go back to anything, he should go. He did that when he left the bar.
Mm.
But whatever. We're not splitting hairs here.
I got one thing about this movie in particular that I don't know why I found it kind of refreshing, even though it, in retrospect, it can be kind of stupid, is the fact that they'll incorporate the larger DC universe in there matter of factly without any kind of pomp or pageantry. Like the Flash cameo is just there. There's no grand build up to the debut of the Flash stopping Boomerang. He just pops in, says something. I can't remember what he says to him exactly, and then just knocks him out. And that's it. That's all you get of Ezra Miller. The Batman stuff, like there's no build up into him showing up. He just first up shows up in an alleyway to stop Deadshot, and then secondly drives around the Batmobile for a couple of seconds, and that's it.
Yeah.
But I don't know why. Maybe it was just kind of that silly, like, man, they just don't give a shit. Whereas something like in a Marvel movie, there would be a build up to something like Spider-Man showing up or something. I don't know.
Yeah, you got to have that Tony Stark in your living room scene.
Yeah.
Before you can get there.
But I don't know why. It was kind of refreshing just to be like, yeah, these characters are there too. We're just going to visit them really quick. But, well, I guess this is where we can go for it, sir.
Okay, sorry. Oh, yeah, that's the stuff I liked. It's, hey, the bigger world is out there, and these people are a part of it. And I thought it was a good way, especially the Ezra Miller, the best one actually. Just because, I mean, he's the Flash, so he shouldn't be around for very long, because he's got other things to do. But there's just quick in, quick out. Like, hey, just to keep your interest peaked. Just to show us these guys. So I was glad when I saw Flash, and obviously Batman is my favorite character of all time. So I'm always happy to see him.
Yeah. And it did have that big teaser at the end being like, my friends will handle this, Amanda, or whatever. And like, who are your friends? That's kind of along the lines of, I had Incredible Hulk flashbacks to when Tony Stark walks into the bar at the end of the movie. He's just putting together a special team or whatever. I'm like, I see what you're doing now. Okay. So much for keeping pomp and pageantry aside. But this kind of segues into what we can kind of focus this discussion in particular on today, as opposed to kind of just going over problem 897 with this movie, is actually being able to compare it with another film endeavor that dropped a couple years before this that we both actually feel is superior to this version right now. And that is actually, it's an animated direct-to-video feature called Batman Assault on Arkham. And for those not in the know, this is actually a movie based in the Arkham Asylum video game universe, correct?
Yes.
It's kind of, it's a prequel to Arkham Asylum, but it follows Origins, I think. Because Batman's out there doing his thing. Joker's been established. Harley Quinn's been established. But they haven't gotten into the events of the first Arkham Asylum video game. And
right. Yeah, I'd agree with that too.
So basically, this is, even though it's got Batman right before the actual title, this is very much a Suicide Squad film. They're the ones who hold the focus for about 90-95% of the film. And every once in a while, you will check in with Batman or the Riddler or somebody.
Well, I mean, like, yeah, in this movie, Batman is the villain.
Mm-hmm.
Like, he gets the villain's time, and the Suicide Squad gets the hero's time. And I really, really dig it. Like, that's, I would, because, like, I don't know if you read the Joker by Brian Azzarello.
Yeah.
But in that one, you're following the Joker all around, and Batman's in like 7 panels of the entire comic book. But they're always like, it's like, oh man, I heard Batman was coming around, blah blah blah, and then he's in there for one panel, and everyone freaks out, and then you got to deal with it. But I really like that you see how other people see Batman. You're not following Batman around the whole time. You're just like, holy crap! And this dude shows up, he fucks everything up, and then he breaks out, and you don't even know what happened.
Yeah. Yeah, that is kind of a good perspective on it, is that the way I kind of think of it too is that it plays more like a heist movie, like something around the lines of Ocean's 11 or even like Heat. I feel this plays more into the Heat comparison than anything else, because it is about following these very not good people, but you're compelled to follow their story because they're on a very dangerous mission, and they have this superhero that's kind of impeding them every step of the way, but also not just a superhero, but another supervillain who's kind of gumming up the works. And that is the Joker, this time played by Troy Baker. But what I feel is kind of missing in the live action version, first of all, is that, would you agree that the threat in the live action version is probably way, way more above their qualifications?
Yeah, I wouldn't call the Suicide Squad for this. Yeah, it's or if I was gonna call up a list of supervillains, it wouldn't be like Deadshot can make it in, but other than that, Deadshot, Diablo, and Killer Croc would probably be the only people I would, and they would be at the bottom of the list. Like, okay, and we'll throw in these 3 guys because they can handle themselves in a bad situation.
Mm-hmm.
I wouldn't call half of these people. There's no sense in it. So yeah, that was one of I thought the glaring issues with the movie, is that why would you call Harley Quinn? Like they say they're getting this team together to fight Superman, in case another Superman comes, or actually they should have just said Zod, and in case another Zod shows up.
Yeah.
What are we gonna do if Superman's not here? So we're gonna call Harley Quinn. That's because that makes sense, right?
Yeah, and that's really not what the mission statement of the original Squad was, because I feel the original kind of most long-standing version of the Squad first came out in the 80s in this mini-series called Legends, which after they rebooted the DC Universe after Crisis, they retold how a lot of the big Justice Leaguers met. But they also had the subplot of the Suicide Squad being put together by Amanda Waller that had a lot of these people in it. They had Deadshot, they had Enchantress, and Boomerang were the ones who kind of stood out to me. But their whole goal really wasn't like, we're going to take on superhuman level threats if there are no superheroes around. It was, we're going to play both sides. We're going to undermine superhero activity from time to time, but also we're going to go in on those jobs that we know superheroes won't take, because we don't have that pure morality. We can do things that they can't do in terms of killing people and doing questionable actions.
Yeah, it's the scope of this one gets way out of hand. I feel like they wanted, you don't need the Suicide Squad to save the world.
Yeah,
that should be what they're about. And yeah, they just they did that movie thing where they're like, yeah, and then she's gonna destroy the world, and Will Smith's gotta shoot her in the face.
And that's the thing, is like, even in the comics, like Enchantress, her power level really wasn't even up to world-ending scale when they first convened.
I don't know why they went that way. They could have easily dialed her back and not had her be, the villain. I just, that was a misstep.
And for some comparison too, you're not even factoring in Assault yet, but in that original miniseries that I was talking about, I think the biggest things that they tackled in that miniseries was that they dealt with, first of all, escaping from angry mobs that were hypnotized by what's his name, Golden Godfrey from Apocalypse.
Okay.
because he was kind of riling up people against superpowered people, and they were caught in the crossfire, so they had to get away from angry mobs. But also, I think the biggest challenge they had was to take down a couple of terror dogs from Apocalypse, or whatever those things are called. The transform people that turn into big metal dogs.
Yeah.
And that was like the height of their abilities was just dealing with gigantic metal dogs.
Yeah.
But here it's like, nope, fate of the world rests on your shoulders if you're able to stop this all-powerful witch with your baseball bat.
You know? Like, I mean, because, what is Harley Quinn doing there? What? I mean, I get it. She's a supervillain. You're using supervillains, but she doesn't help the team, really.
Mm-hmm. There's no advantage to her being on the team. If anything, it's kind of a disadvantage because her boyfriend gets involved and screws things up.
Yep.
But go ahead.
No, you go
ahead. To compare with Assault, though, there's a reason why she's in that team. In Assault, it's because they're breaking into Arkham Asylum, and she knows the terrain. She knows what the codes are. She knows what security systems they have to avoid. So there's a reason why she's there.
She's been on both sides of the bars in Arkham Asylum. So
yeah,
if anyone knows Arkham Asylum, it's her.
Yeah, so it made more sense in that movie, in the animated movie, as to why they chose team members when they did. Is that they have some kind of home court advantage when they enlist. But yeah, with the movie, it was just kind of like, well, it's because Harley Quinn's really popular right now, so we're going to squeeze her in there.
Well, yeah, because she's in the new incarnation of the Suicide Squad, and that's where she really gained a lot of popularity recently.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, so they're like, well, we need, and also with women getting more time and everything now, there's we need the strong female lead.
Mm-hmm.
And right now we'll throw her in there. But yeah, just the premise of having her, and I'm not against having Harley Quinn in any story. It's just
not at all. Yeah,
there.
Yeah, there should be a good reason as to why she's there. And well, here's the thing: is like I'm all for her being a prominent character. I like the character just fine. I think she's funny. I think she can be scary at times when need be, and also you do empathize with her at times, especially when she gets mistreated by others or by the Joker. But I feel there's kind of this mandate now from especially DC that they're trying to make her like DC's Deadpool. Do you feel that at all?
Yeah, I can kind of see that. I mean, obviously they weren't going for as crass as Deadpool is, but yeah, I could definitely see that where she's just supposed to be this insane person and she can do these amazing things.
Mm-hmm.
Deadpool was part of the mutant program. Like Harley Quinn is still just a gymnast and a psychologist at the end of the day.
Yeah. Yeah. Another thing that I feel could have been served better in the live action movie, which I feel they did do a pretty good job of in the animated, was the Harley Quinn Joker relationship.
Yes.
In a way. What did you think of like I mentioned before, it was hard for me to kind of gauge what they could have done differently since Joker's only in it for like 3 scenes. But what did you think of Joker and Harley in the live action?
Well, I mean, it kind of pulled me out of the movie, to be honest, and because the Joker Harley stuff is hardcore. It's twisted.
Mm-hmm.
But the rest of the movie is a PG-13 movie. So, when you have the Joker in there just being, all that stuff belongs in a rated R movie.
Yeah.
And it pulled me out just because I was just like, I don't know what you're going for here.
Yeah, and
like the scene with Common, where
oh my God, that was Common.
yeah, and it was just like, I don't know what you're trying to show me here, because like the Joker's obviously already insane. He's obviously, with the Jared Leto Joker, I honestly, I can't tell you how I feel about it.
Yeah,
the relationship, they almost hit right, I think, but I don't like that the Joker cares so much for Harley.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
because and this, this might just be how I was raised, but like the Joker, the Joker is always about himself, and Harley, that's why he keeps her around. But if push comes to shove, he doesn't really care.
Yeah, when he does demonstrate affection, it's not genuine affection. It like maybe in some little part of him he does kind of have affection for her, but it's more about the manipulation for him.
Yes.
Whereas I could get the sense here and there in the film that there was manipulation going on, but then there'd be times like when he dives in after her, it seemed like he really was kind of torn up about leaving her in that vat.
Yeah.
And I was kind of like, okay, Joker, he'd stick to not giving a shit probably. But like it seemed in that moment, or he'd pull her out for a different reason and have like a joke at her expense. But then it really seemed like in that moment he's like, I'm her Romeo. I'm gonna go save her.
Yeah, and I just that kind of put me off of the whole thing. I don't want to say I like a few of the things that Jared Leto did as a Joker in the 3 minutes that we saw him as the Joker.
Yeah.
I like the hand tattoo because his teeth are all effed up.
Yeah.
So he puts the hand over, he got a tattoo on his hand and he puts a smile over his face every time. And he does that kind of creepy, not real laugh.
Yeah.
I was a fan of that. I was like, good, you're doing your own thing. I enjoy where you're going with this. But then, I feel like that this Joker is the 30 Seconds to Mars Joker. Like he's very Hollywood. He's very I don't know if I like all the other things about him, but I feel like they did get a couple things dead on that they did that was just brand new, and I liked how they took I like that. I didn't like some of the tattoos don't make sense, but I did enjoy the hand thing. So he's got a few different smiles tattooed on him, so he can kind of put a different face on or whatever depending on how he's feeling.
Yeah, that was. I mean, well, I'm gonna get into a little bit of what kind of really caught my attention with this Joker. But first off, is that it's kind of a through line with a lot of this DC movie stuff. Is that characterization is a little too on the nose for me at times. There's some stuff you can leave up to the imagination. Like for example, it goes back to Batman v Superman when Bruce Wayne's walking past the Robin suit and it's got jokes on you, Batman spray painted on it. I'm like, that's really cheesy. I mean, really kind of lame for a Joker to do. Like, but also, yeah, I agree with you. Some of the tattoos, I'm just like, that's a little too on the nose for this Joker. But there was some weird shit that was going on with him that I kind of enjoyed. When he's in his little hideout and his enforcer comes in to tell him, where Harley is. And he's surrounded by all the weapons and stuff, and he's lying down and just doing that laugh like you mentioned, which I did enjoy the laugh. Off to the side, I remember this clear as day, he had a couple of baby onesies.
Yes.
Like really brightly colored empty baby onesies just sitting there, neatly folded. I'm like, what is that about?
And you never, ever find out anything about it. Like,
and I'm sure maybe it was used in deleted scenes of the movie, maybe not, but just that weirdness. I was kind of like, yes, that is kind of Joe. He would have like weird death trap stuff lying around that is baby doll or whatever centric, and you wouldn't explore it, but you just know, yes, that's something the Joker would have lying around, of course. And from what you mentioned about the Joker Harley stuff being very R-rated and darker than what was being presented in the rest of the movie, Jared Leto has gone on to say, like, there's a lot of me that's been cut out of this movie. And yeah, it's because it was to make Joker a little bit more likable, I guess. Like, there's a whole scene of him physically abusing the shit out of Harley. And that's completely gone from the movie.
Yeah, and it's weird too because on the one hand, you have the Joker who could jumping into a vat of acid, and then I don't think we didn't get enough time with that, or again, like you're saying, they took out all the seriously physical stuff, where he was just abusing her or whatever, but I don't know. They pulled too much of the Joker for you to get any impression of how like sadistic he really is,
Yeah.
and why Harley Quinn is so and so around him mentally that it's hard for her to break free.
Yeah.
But I mean, that's also what I like about is you come in and Harley Quinn, she's had her heart broken.
Yep. Oh yeah, they're like
But
on the rocks. She shoots at him in his cell. That's right.
and then you find out that it's all 100% behind the Joker, even if like she knows she shouldn't be, and it's not even the same. Like, okay, he's a psychopath. I obviously shouldn't be with him. Like, she knows that even though they're both crazy and and it's a weird world they live in, for her to be with the Joker, but she still can't get away from him. And I think they did a much better job of that in Assault on Arkham than they did in the movie.
Oh, definitely, because there was more time with the Joker, and especially more time between Joker and Harley, that you got a sense of what their history was. And Joker in Assault has charming moments, honestly, and he does display kind of that affection to her at times, but then immediately will flip the coin, to borrow Two-Face language, but he'll immediately become manipulative and abusive. But then you get why she's conflicted, because he'll show a gentler side at times, but then he'll completely reverse it and turn on her or leave or abandon her, basically. Yeah. And that was the thing too, is that in that movie, it demonstrated a little bit more of Harley's strength, because of the fact when you first touch base with her, she's basically on the rebound. She's basically trying to get over him. I mean, she has sex with Deadshot, essentially. And I was like, wow, this is a kid's movie. Okay.
Right.
I mean, it's not a kid's movie. I mean, it's animation. It's a...
Yeah, obviously, it's a cartoon, so your first thought is this is for kids. But no, the thing very well, and this isn't rated R. Assault on Arkham isn't a rated R cartoon.
Right.
So you're working with the same handcuffs, but I think they worked around everything much better.
Mm-hmm. There was definitely more of a feel of more character driven, definitely, but also this espionage feel to it. And it comes back again to the idea that this, I'm able to relate to these characters more because this threat feels very much something that they would be thrown into. This whole get into this high-tech place, get the stuff, get out of Dodge, or I'll blow your head off, as opposed to go into hell on earth, fight zombies, and fight this witch, or I'll blow your head off.
Or I'll blow your head off, or the world ends.
Yeah, or the world ends. And I'll blow your head off before the world ends. So
yes,
there you go. But it definitely could have benefited from having a smaller scale, especially since the past two DC movies have been about aliens and warships coming down from the clouds and trying to defeat a god. I think we could have used a smaller story, honestly.
Yeah. Yeah, it's we already said it, but it's just too much for these people.
Mm-hmm.
Like if Enchantress is going, she's going nuts. She's doing her thing. I would call Wonder Woman. I'd call Batman, and the Flash. Like these people exist already, and people know that they exist. Why wouldn't you enlist their help in this obvious problem you're having?
Yeah, that should have been the Justice League Part 1 right there. Take down Enchantress.
I mean, because I feel like this movie, like you're saying, it's a Batman movie. It's got Batman on the title, but Batman's hardly in it. In Assault on Arkham. And oh god, what was I trying to say?
Well, with Assault on Arkham too, he's threaded throughout it, but also at the same time, you still get a sense of his character, even though he probably has as much time on screen as Jared Leto's Joker did in the live action movie. Like, yeah, he's barely in it, or he's in disguise for a good part of it.
Yeah.
But at the same time, you buy that, and it's not like you're actually fully 100% on board with Batman at that point. You're like, man, I really want to see Deadshot and Boomerang and Killer Frost get out of here. Like
Yeah,
I like them. It's like I want them to get out.
And then, and then also what they did better with Assault on Arkham versus the Suicide Squad movie is you feel like these people are villains.
Mm-hmm.
They do bad things.
Yeah.
There's none of this team or family. They get into that in the movie where it's like, oh yeah, we're all here for each other and blah 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 blah. And you're super villains. Like, what do you care about that guy over there? You just met him.
It's very much something you mentioned on the Three Geeks podcast, I think last week, is that would, I guarantee you that team solidarity in the live action is very much Guardians of the Galaxy inspired, where they're like, these people shouldn't get along, but we're going to make them a family. It's like, that works for Guardians because they're not villains. They're morally great people at times, but they're misfits. They're outcasts, and there's a big difference between being a misfit and being a through and through villain. Whereas, with Assault on Arkham, they work together, sure, but Deadshot and Boomerang still hate each other's guts at the end of the movie.
Yeah,
at the end of Assault, they're still like, next time I see you, you're dead, buddy.
Yeah, let me catch you in the street. Like,
like the only one that Deadshot in the animated movie seems to even have a modicum of, not respect, but a modicum of, I guess, a soft spot for is Harley, really.
And not even really. Like, I mean, they have sex.
Yeah, well, so and then he has like,
if that's having a soft spot for somebody, then, because I mean, there's multiple occasions where he either threatens her himself or says, go ahead and kill her, I don't care.
Yeah, he does do that. But towards the end, there is kind of this thing. And at one point, I think, didn't even ask, he's like, why are you even bothering with the clown or something? Wasn't there a point where he was kind of being like, why even bother with the Joker? Just kind of a dismissive line, but at the same time, it's like he's taking a little bit of time to invest in her life briefly.
Yeah, I mean, but it's not even. He could have been reading the Sunday paper and was like, "Why does Trump say all these dumb things?" It's like,
yeah,
it's the same air of dismissal that he'd give to it, like.
But I mean, compared to the live action movie where he's given the opportunity to kill her and all his problems will be set straight, and he has his moral quandary there, and doesn't, right. And he's like, "I missed," yeah. Which, by the way, why didn't Amanda Waller just blow off his head at that point for not following through on the order?
Now that is the one thing that I do like, because I feel like after Flag, Deadshot is kind of the leader of the Suicide Squad.
Okay.
And Waller knows that he's the absolute best she's going to get. So she's very, very reluctant to kill Deadshot at all times.
Everyone else, though, yeah.
Yeah. Everyone else can go. But
that Slipknot guy, he just grapples all over the place. But
he can climb anything. And that's the other thing too. With the intros, this is where the cartoon was better than the movie. Everyone gets equal time for their intro, so you don't know who's going out. But when you're just like, oh, here's Slipknot. By the way, he's a guy.
Yeah, and you don't see any of his backstory, which
that dude's gonna get it.
Which I feel. That might have been something cut out too. I heard there was a rumor that the reason you didn't see any backstory from Slipknot is that apparently he was a rapist.
Okay.
I guess in the original cut they had background information on Slipknot being like a serial rapist or something. And I'm like, yeah, you might want to leave that out or not even put it in to begin with. He can't just be a bank robber or a killer or something.
Yeah. Like, what if he's a serial killer? He likes to strangle people or something. I don't know, but
that'll go over better in a PG-13 movie as opposed to a serial rapist.
Yeah. Yes.
It's like, oh my god. But
I mean, they don't give Slipknot any time. He's done as soon as he gets in there, and I was like, well, what's the point of even having him? Like, I get you need to show that the nanite bombs work, but
Mm-hmm.
you can serve the story and the characters better if you full shot.
Yeah, I will admit the unequal amount of screen time in favor of the bigger characters or bigger stars, I guess, really did kind of put very obvious people on the chopping block. Like even Diablo, even though I know you enjoyed him, I enjoyed him quite a bit too. But as soon as he had that flashback about his home life, I'm like, oh, he's dead. It's like he's gonna find ultimate redemption by blowing himself up, I'm sure. Whereas with Assault on Arkham, where everyone just had their weird intros, like Deadshot's, what was he? He was doing a hit and he gets caught into the service. Harley Quinn bites the ear off of somebody.
Like Harley Quinn's already in the mental facility, and someone tries to take her freaking
video
toy
game
away.
Yeah.
Deadshot was caught too, but he was like in the middle of escaping, and somebody gets him.
KG Beast is like parachuting in.
Yeah, KG Beast is out there just wrecking house. Black Spider gets caught killing a mobster. What was Captain Boomerang doing? But either way, they all got like a 15. It wasn't very long, Like Killer Frost is robbing a bank, and she gets the getaway driver drives off without.
Yeah, it was a montage, a la Ocean's 11. It was just a quick, montage, character by character. Here's who's in the squad, which was fine. I got the sense of what their power levels were, what their characterization was probably going to be, and it made it all the more shocking when KG Beast's head blows off.
Yes,
I was like, I really thought he was going to be in it for the whole thing, but I'm like, oh no, they do away with him like in the first 5 minutes as a demonstration. I'm just like, oh, I didn't see that coming.
And yeah, I was just like, right now you're hand feeding it to me, and you don't have to, like that's just, that was like negative, and they could have done a better job, and the whole movie stuff was short, but that is not a big point. Slipknot is not that great of a character anyway.
Yeah.
So whatever.
Well,
but it's just they handle it very well in the cartoon. So obviously you've got somebody who knows what they're doing on the payroll somewhere. Like.
Well, that's the thing about animation too, is that you're able to I feel you're able to dictate the flow of your movie much, much better, and able to keep it at the pace and editing you want right from the get-go, because you're able to orchestrate all those shots yourself without having to wrangle in effects or actors or anything like that. It's all within your own imagination what you can put onto the screen. But with the live action movie, it always comes back to that editing and pacing for me. The fact that the live action movie would take ginormous chunks out of its like second act to flash back again. Mm-hmm. I don't remember even why they were flashing back to certain things. Like they re-showed you scenes that had already happened too, like the Enchantress and the subway stuff. They decided to show you again in case you forgot that she's the villain in this.
Well, and also I feel like with the Assault on Arkham, they go into it assuming at least something about some of these characters. Yeah. And with the movie, they feel like they got to explain everything to everybody.
I guess I get it a little bit, because the fact is the DTV stuff really, sure, everyday movie watchers and audience members or consumers will probably stumble upon it and watch it. But I feel always like the DTVs are for the diehards, are for the fans that know this stuff inside and outside, already know those video games, know these characters from the other interpretations in the comics. So they're going to go into that with all that knowledge already. Whereas I know their mentality for the big screen adaptation is that we got to make this appeal to everyone. And so far, DC really hasn't done a bang-up job of that. They're trying, they're really trying to appeal to the whole mass audience, but again, it's that core audience that really stands by them, that of diehard DC fans that do know these characters already. But their whole approach to getting everyone up to speed on these characters' histories is to kind of say like, oh yeah, that's Katana. She's got a sword that eats souls.
Yeah, and that's like, if they would have had, so they have Katana in here, which is one of my favorite characters because no one else really knows if that sword eats souls or not.
Yep.
Thinks that 100%. So
and you
when she's talking to the sword and yada yada,
yeah,
she just seemed like a crazy person.
Yep. That's what I was about to say. Was
And
that like her whole arc could have been an interesting arc to look into, but you only see it once or twice, and then the entire time it's just her talking to her dead husband.
Yes.
Without any context. Other than Rick Flag
like,
telling you what the context is.
Right. And I mean, like, and in the movie they show, like, you know, there's a CG effect whenever she kills somebody.
Mm-hmm.
So it does actually steal the souls of the people that it kills. And I was just like, you would have done yourself much better to just make her look absolutely batshit crazy talking to this fucking sword. And you know, but she's a cold-blooded killer. Like don't mess with Katana.
Yeah.
And also that's why you call this chick to be on the Suicide Squad, because she's batshit crazy.
I feel the same could be said for Enchantress's stuff too, because with the Enchantress, yeah, you're showing, her brother gets rebuilt or whatever out of that subway dude. But throughout all of that, you have Amanda Waller basically telling you what the backstory is. And even then, I was kind of checking out a little bit. I'm like, okay, so this is about godlike beings already that have been on this earth, and this is already way over their heads, I feel. Why should I care? So, I mean, I'm not saying the Enchantress wouldn't be an interesting villain or wouldn't be an interesting Suicide Squad member, but for the first outing, when you're already introducing us to, it feels like 10 new characters already, plus revisiting Batman a little bit, introducing a new Joker, to have this being there with her own complex backstory was just overkill. It was really kind of overstimulating at times with regards to the exposition dumps. Like, aside from blowing people's heads up, Amanda Waller really just tells people about shit all throughout this movie, which I like Viola Davis just fine. And I wish they gave her more intimidating stuff to do in the film, but for the most part, she's just there to tell you who this person is or why you should worry about this.
Yeah. And then, you know, in Assault, like, there's that one point where she's like, nobody fucks with the wall.
Yeah.
And straight up tried to kill everybody. And I was like, yes, like, that is Amanda Waller. Like, this Amanda Waller, I don't really get that from. You know, like, and again, I did enjoy Viola Davis. I think she was a great pick. I wish she would have gained like 400 pounds for the role.
Oh, yeah.
But I can understand why one wouldn't do that for health reasons.
Yeah, I get that too. You don't want to go opposite of Christian Bale and The Machinist, and
yes. But I mean, like, I liked her. I like her as an actress, and I with what she had, I thought she did a very good job. But I feel like, you know, the character Amanda Waller was done a little bit of disservice, because you don't like. I mean, I guess she does kill all those people in that room.
She does. Yeah, she shoots that one. She shoots those people before they leave. Yeah, and Will Smith's there being like, "Shit, okay."
Yeah, you know, fuck it, whatever. But yeah, I don't get where. I like that she, you know, like, they call her the Wall, and and nobody, you know, like, you know better than to go up. If you're stuck between a wall and a hard place, you're in a bad spot.
Mm-hmm.
So I mean, like, I just didn't get that, because Amanda Waller is a villain also, and I feel like in this movie they're doing too much of they're like good people doing bad things versus bad people doing things, you know?
Right. Yeah.
So yeah, that's I mean, I feel like they served Yeah, again, and it's mostly just because, like you're saying, with the animated, they're like, all right, guys, like everyone knows the score. Here we go. And in the movie, they're trying to walk you through it and show you how they could do these things and how they could become these people. And I just want to see a movie that's not an origin movie. I want them to just throw us in
Yeah.
there.
Like what they did with Assault. They implied in Assault that Deadshot and a couple of other squad members have been doing this for a while. Like it's routine for them by now to be abducted at a moment's notice and put into a mission.
Yeah.
And I thought that could have been a pretty fun. I thought that was the approach they were going to go with for this movie, was that they were going to be like, oh yeah, so Deadshot and Harley Quinn and maybe Boomerang have been through this before. And it could be like those three can be the veterans showing these rookies the ropes and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Like that could have been interesting, but no, this is like the first time out for everybody.
Yeah, and yeah, I off of the walking. You don't need your handheld to pick up on it. I mean, like and especially today where you can Google 50 things. If you got any questions by the end of the movie, you can just ask them.
Yep.
There's some way to get an answer.
Yeah, and that's the whole deal. It's like I remember back to the first Avengers movie where I know half the audience was like, "Who's that purple guy?" I knew who the purple guy was, but at the same time, them asking who's that purple guy wasn't like, "Oh, this movie sucks now" because I don't know who that is.
Right.
Whereas here, I'm like, "Who's that big golden dude? Why should I care? Oh, it's her brother. I don't care."
Yeah. Yeah. Exactly.
But yeah, and as I've thought about this over a couple of weeks now, just kind of revisiting the movie off and on, thinking about what I was going to say today, the idea of like, you know what, this movie, it should have been an R, in my opinion. It's about villains. It's about, like you mentioned before, it's not about good people who do bad things. It's about very bad people who just happen to be doing something good for everyone else because they're forced to.
Yep. Because they're forced to.
Yeah. I know it said it kind of puts you off Guardians a little bit. That's not Guardians though. Those people, in Guardians, they're misunderstood at times, but they're ultimately deep down good people, and they do end up joining because they want to better the world or better the universe. But here it's like, yeah, these people don't want to do this. These people shouldn't want to do this other than for selfish reasons, getting time off of parole or getting to see his daughter or whatever. But that kind of story needs to be dark. It needs to be grittier. Or not, it was gritty, but grittier in terms of like, you can, like you mentioned, take the gloves off. And I feel an R rating, especially since if you're scared that kids won't see it, I mean, kids went to see Deadpool. You really think they're not going to eventually catch around Suicide Squad?
Yeah, and I mean, like with all the marketing, there's no reason why like people weren't going to go see it.
Yeah,
like, it got all the play that it needed, and there's none of that to really worry about. So I mean, and again, also with Deadpool, they showed you can make, and you're gonna, as long as you didn't spend $200 million making the movie, you're gonna make all your money back easy.
Yeah.
So
yeah, I kind of feel. Yeah, what you mentioned about the marketing is very true too, because after that first full trailer with the Queen, with Bohemian Rhapsody and everything like that, I was kind of hoping for an R movie. Like it seemed like it was going to be Wolf of Wall Street levels of nutso.
Yeah.
With its energy, and we didn't get that really.
No, not even really close to that.
Whereas something like Assault on Arkham genuinely surprised me with a lot of its frankness. I'm like, holy shit, I can't believe you did that in an animated movie.
Okay, now what to you is the better Deadshot scene? Now that scene where Will Smith shoots all those zombies in Suicide Squad, and he goes on there. He's like, "That's how I cut and run." Or the scene where Deadshot stands up to the Joker with a gun to his head and says, "Pull the trigger."
Oh, that one definitely, because that was actually kind of a good character payoff in a way. He's like, man, you out crazied the Joker. It's like, yeah, that's an awesome like line to kind of cap that off. Whereas, I'll admit, it is cool to see Will Smith just be badass, but at the same time, I knew that was going to happen anyways.
Yeah, and watching a dude shoot 800 people, like, yeah, okay, he shot them all in the head, but that's not really interesting, like. He's like, I mean, if he was out there and like they were swarming him and he was in the middle of it and you didn't think he was going to make it out, that would have been another thing.
Mm-hmm.
But he's just standing here. They're all coming straight at him, and he's just picking them off one by one. Ducks in a row. That it doesn't really do it. That's not.
Yeah,
it's not interesting.
In Assault, you get who these characters are, and you're with them as these characters. In Suicide Squad, there are moments where they really do inhabit these characters well, but it's not consistent. Like the introduction to Will Smith as Deadshot in the live movie, where he's just waiting on a rooftop for his accounts to balance out. I like that.
Yes.
I'm like, that's Deadshot right there. He's not going to do the job until he gets paid, and then he just like matter of factly ends this dude's life. He's like, okay, got my $2 million or whatever. Like, that's Deadshot. Again, what I mentioned about Captain Boomerang just leaving the bar, he's like, all right, fine, I'm gone. Like, I'm like, yeah, that's Captain Boomerang. He'll cut and run as quick as possible.
Because he's not, he's not the super guy. Like, why would he hang around there?
Mm-hmm. Margot Robbie, I feel, was the most consistent throughout the movie, but just because the character of Harley Quinn, is just so nutso and goofball-y that it allows her that opportunity to be that quite a bit. So I really can't think of a particular definitive Harley Quinn moment. Can you?
There was, what's that? I should kill all of you and escape?
Yeah, I guess that worked. Yeah.
But that all goes just back to Harley Quinn not really having any reason to be there. Like, I don't feel like she got that shining moment because you're like, at all times, you're like, why is she here?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And like I mentioned before, her being there is actually a disadvantage. So why even tempt that? Which, I'm sorry, this is probably going to be one of the last things I harp on about the live action thing, but that whole, hey, let's stay in touch via text shouldn't have happened in the first place.
No, okay.
No one notices she's yeah.
The drop off for that cell phone. They're surrounded by dudes with guns.
Exactly.
Like, here's a cell phone.
It's not like a little Bluetooth thing either that she can just quickly put in her ear or something. Like, it's a brick of a phone.
I was just like, how did nobody notice that?
And she's texting on the
all time.
She's texting on the helicopter in sight of all these people, and I'm like, the only one who seems to give a shit but not really give a shit is Deadshot, because he sees her doing it. He's just like, whatever. Like, really? None of you are the least bit curious? First of all, how she got a personal cell phone, and second of all, who is she texting?
Oh my goodness, it was just it was so ridiculous and that point, and then that everything hinges so much around her having that phone.
Yeah,
and I'm like, that is just the dumbest. Oh my! Like, there's no subtlety, there's no anything, and I feel like the Joker could send 800 weird packages to Harley Quinn, and nobody would understand what he was doing except for her.
It is very opposite of Heath Ledger's Joker, who planned out for every possible eventuality. Like, Heath Ledger's Joker, for all he harped on about chaos and everything like that and being an anarchist, he was really well prepared.
Yeah.
Jared Leto's Joker is very much just kind of like, what? She's getting out? Oh, I'm going to wing it. Give her a phone. Or whatever.
Yeah.
But yeah. that did kind of bother me. It's just like the only reason he's even involved in this plot right now is just blind luck that no one is taking that phone away from her.
Right. And then how many helicopters did they crash in that movie?
One. I think there was they crashed into the city, right? In the beginning, or they get dropped off.
For no reason. Yeah, that helicopter crashed with no consequence.
They crashed.
Then
another helicopter crashed trying to pick them up, I think. Then Joker.
No, the Joker's helicopter crashes, and Amanda Waller's helicopter.
That's right. Yeah, that's right. She gets captured after the helicopter crash. That's right.
And then like when they're leaving with her, like Amanda Waller gets picked up, she's in the hot zone. They're taking her out. Why would you fly down into the city and then flying up and away?
Because big hole in the sky. I don't know. That's weird. Yeah. Because plot convenience. That's why.
Yeah. So there was just a bunch of that in the movie, where in the Assault on Arkham, everything just kind of fits where it's supposed to go.
Well, it made sense why the helicopter was flying so crazily in the end of Assault is because Harley Quinn was driving, right? She was the one flying it.
Yes.
And
also they were having a fight.
Yes, there was a fight. There was like a 3-way fight between Batman, Joker, and Deadshot. So yeah, there was a lot going on there. And one thing too. Do you find? I don't know. Do you find it weird that Batman and Joker never had any screen time together? Like there was a scene where he's chasing him in the car, but that's not. I don't consider that FaceTime really. He has like one scene with Harley. He punches her and she makes out with him when he's trying to give her CPR. But that's it. But I found it so weird that like not even one scene of Jared Leto sharing at least 1 or 2 lines of dialogue with Batman before he knocks him out or something. Or pushes him off a bridge or whatever. It was weird, man. It was just so weird to be like, man, Joker and Batman never actually meet in this movie. Huh.
And you'd think that Batman would be around, Like,
yeah. Honestly, there was some stuff because, first of all, I was kind of hoping Batman would be threaded through this more often, like an Assault. Like he was going to be in the background. Maybe he'd be on his own investigation in that city, and eventually, something would put him out of commission that he wouldn't be able to be there for the finale, and it would be up to them to resolve it. But no. But also Scott Eastwood in this movie. There was a lot of rumors going around that like they never say who Scott Eastwood's playing in this movie, and I'm still not sure what the character's name is supposed to be.
I think it was GQ or something like that, right?
I guess, yeah. I mean, it's a nothing character. It's it's John Blake essentially. But what I was kind of hoping was that maybe this is Nightwing in deep cover or something like that. Maybe it's another character who's, if they're going to be so guarded about this character's name, why even just hide it?
Oh, dude.
I don't know.
If that was Nightwing, that would have been so awesome.
Yeah, that could have been cool. Like a little throwaway insiders, cameo for us. Like you hear him over like an intercom being like Agent 37. Step up, because that's his isn't that his agent name in Spiral when he's a secret agent?
I believe so, yes.
Yeah, Agent 37, come report or whatever.
And it's like, oh, snaps.
Yeah. Or like he meets with Batman in an alleyway to be like, I'm keeping my eye on him. Don't worry. But
yeah. They had the opportunity. They had a bunch of opportunities to, and I feel like the Suicide Squad worked. Like if this is just the Batman standalone movie and he had to go against Suicide Squad, i.e. Assault on Arkham,
yep,
it would have been much better. Because to introduce all these characters, because then they get to be villains and you find out why they're so bad. And then maybe in the next movie where it's a Suicide Squad movie, whatever the fuck, you don't care. But
yeah, I'm kind of wondering where they go from here, because they're gonna do a sequel, and I guess we can transition into that now. Is the idea of like, where do you go after saving the world from a power hungry witch? It's like,
they're probably gonna kill some drug lord in Colombia or something like that.
yeah, that I mean, honestly, that should have been like this. That should have been this first movie. Here's what I feel should have happened with this first movie, and what they could have done with the sequel. Joker should have been the villain for this first movie. Keep it a small story. He's got a hold of something they want. They need to get it, but he's like, send Harley or something like that, because he knows she's locked up and he wants her back. So that way you can have your cake and eat it too with that subplot.
Yeah.
So that also gives her a reason to be in the squad. I think you mentioned this last week. I think you put the idea in my brain.
Quite possibly, because I've been harping on this ever since I saw the movie. But I did go pay to see it twice. So I just want to throw that out there. I'm not hating on the movie with no, like I've seen the movie twice.
Yeah, no reference.
Yeah, but it's just if you're using her as bait, that's even better. Like I didn't think of that. That was all you. And it's just there's 10 other things you could have done, and to make everything gel, a little bit more. And they were afraid of their the R rating. They were afraid of people not fully getting the characters, and they were afraid of people not knowing the characters. And you can tell they made the movie, they cut the movie, I should say, like they were afraid.
Yeah. And which is why I also said at the very beginning, like, the reason I'm going to probably revisit this later is to see if they do come out with the unrated, uncut, original vision, whatever you want to call it. I am curious to see that too. I was curious to see Batman v Superman Ultimate Edition. Ultimately, that one didn't work in the long run, but I understood, some connections a little bit more with some of the stuff they added in. I'm kind of wondering if the uncut version of Suicide Squad would be greatly enhanced by the addition of the material. I'm not sure.
But you know what? I think that Hollywood shouldn't have to announce like who they're casting as what.
Yeah.
So that way, things can be a surprise, and things, and when you see certain characters, you're not like, oh, well, here we go with, X, Y, and Z.
Yeah. And honestly, that, I don't know, it ties in a little bit to some news that we had, what was it, last week with Deathstroke test footage being leaked by Ben Affleck himself. And apparently that's not for Justice League, I guess. That's for his the Batman standalone. But here's the thing, is like, maybe hint a little bit more than just showing us the full-on costume and character. It looks cool, I'll give it that. But here's where you go from here, Ben. Don't tell us who's under the mask. They probably haven't even cast it yet. It's probably just a costume test just to see how it would look with lighting and everything like that.
Yeah.
Whenever you cast Deathstroke for realsies, don't tell us who it is.
Yeah, and I mean, like, I don't know. If I was making superhero movies now, I would just do the what did they call Star Wars before it was coming out? Blue Harvest.
Yeah.
I feel
alternate titles. Yeah.
And then what's his face got away with making that Cloverfield sequel, and nobody knew, So you just got to do something, because there's so much information going out now that it ruins the movie before you even watch it, or I shouldn't say it ruins it, it spoils it before you even watch it. And
well, like you said, like I said, you were in Toronto. You were in Toronto seeing half of the movie being filmed.
Oh yeah. No, I mean, like, I was on set. It was pretty cool. but they wouldn't take any of my suggestions, so it ended up being a little, like, tense.
Joker wouldn't do that. Who's that guy yelling from the highway?
Oh man. So yeah, like, I just feel like if they weren't so, under such scrutiny from these fanboys, then they get to do a little more, and yeah, like so. Yeah, I feel like there's just a lot of handcuffs in the movie, like the live action movie making process. What happens where you just get a not as good a product as you could.
Hmm. Well, I mean, in this day and age, that could help in the long run to have, to try a film as secretly and as under the radar as possible. Eventually, though, someone will come across you or will unveil what you're really doing. As someone who's been involved in that side of things, because I've told you I've done background and extras work for some big Hollywood movies, and they, when I first auditioned for them, they were under alternate titles. Like Born Legacy was under the alternate title Pusher, I think.
Okay.
Um, Amazing Spider-Man 2 was under, I can't remember what it was, Graduation Day, I think, because that was a scene, was the high school graduation.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
And one I applied for but didn't get was Ninja Turtles 2. Um, that was under the title Foursquare. All these titles to completely make you not be interested in seeing what this movie's about. So that way when you see, oh, Foursquare is filming around the block, you're like, okay, what is it, a rom-com? Don't need to see it.
Yeah, but then like because like they do all the announcements where they're like, okay, this movie's coming out, this movie's coming out, this movie's coming out, and then people are not dumb. They're gonna do the
Mm-hmm.
math. So even announcing your whole schedule to me is dumb.
Yeah.
Like
Oh, so even
because
before you go into production, the idea of like, we're going to have Wonder Woman in 2017 and Green Lantern Corps 5 years later.
yeah, yeah, and then like when like how long does it take to make a movie? How long do you think it's going to take to CG and edit this thing? What movie are they filming right now? Oh, and it seems like it's going to be a pretty big budget movie with a bunch of CG and stuff. I wonder what that could be. Like,
Yeah. I mean,
so
like I was
that's
saying, stuff will eventually come out. Like I was guilty of this too. As soon as I got done shooting on one of the movies, I immediately said like, oh, it's really this movie. But other than that, I didn't say like, oh, it's gonna suck or oh, it's gonna rock. I just said, oh, it's this movie, and that's
yeah.
what I left it at. But yeah,
And
you're right. It's
it
like,
would be if I was in charge, it would be non-disclosure agreements. You sign your whole life away. Do not tell people what you were working on. But that's just me because I feel like again it suffers because of all of the scrutiny and I think that was one of the problems of this movie.
mm-hmm. Yeah, yeah. It feels like they put a huge gamble on this one. That, I mean, money wise, it paid off. I think Suicide Squad has paid itself off plenty of times over at this point. It's not the runaway mega hit they wanted it to be, but I mean, it's not. It didn't
No,
tank.
no, it's not a failure in any way, shape, or form monetarily.
Yeah, but at the same time, I'm like, critically, I'm like, I wouldn't put this below Batman v Superman. And honestly, it's not. It's not. It's
I
not good, but I wasn't frustrated by it. There was stuff I laughed at, like that's stupid, but I wasn't like angry that that happened.
Yeah, no, I thought this was definitely better than Batman vs Superman. Even if only for the reason, like at the end of the movie, it's a fun movie. So they definitely did that, but so yeah, so it's not the same kind of failure as Batman v Superman, but yeah, it's just they still got a whole bunch of stuff wrong, and you don't have to obviously because you have I know these writers work on the animation side or yada yada yada, but they're still working for DC. They're still working for Warner Brothers. So why don't you call any of these guys?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, especially I like what you mentioned about the ending too. Is that it was kind of, even though it's like it's a demented relationship, to see those two reunited, I'm like, oh, okay, happy ending, I guess, cool. But with Assault, it ends on maybe Amanda Waller is shot or maybe not. And I'm
Yes.
like, how is it that the animation division can get away with being edgier and more mature than the movie that's trying way too hard to be mature and edgy?
Yes. It
So,
doesn't make any sense.
well, I mean, hopefully, here's from what I understand is that I mean, I've said it. I said it about Batman v Superman. It's like, oh, Suicide Squad can turn this around. I'm going to carry that sentiment over to Suicide Squad now. Like, Wonder Woman might be able to turn this around.
I hope, man. I really do. Just because, I mean, with Marvel, you know, like the Marvel movies, they have their issues. You know, they're a bit clean cut and happy and stuff, but they don't have these just like glaring problems in half of them. And I feel like they need to, you know, just they got to do something.
Well,
They got to do something.
here's what I'm going to give DC a little bit of the benefit of the doubt for with Wonder Woman is that, yeah, this is going to be a mainstream comic book superheroine finally getting her own standalone movie. Marvel hasn't done that yet. No other studio has really done that yet successfully. Yeah, we've had Catwoman, and Tank Girl, but you know, this is going to be an iconic superheroine finally getting her own standalone movie, and DC gets there first. I hope that gamble for them pays off. I want these movies to do well. I'm not one of those people out there going like, I hope this burns in a fire.
No, not at all. I want good movies.
Yep. And from what I understand, Jeff Johns is going to be way more active than he has been. He's been on these movies credit-wise, I think, as executive producer or something, or producer. But I think they finally got around to making him the Kevin Feige of DC. So maybe that's what the company needs, is a little bit more of that in place from the comic side of things, from someone who's very familiar with these characters to offer more insight for the studios to work with. I don't know how quickly that turnaround is going to happen, if it's impacted Wonder Woman at all, because that thing's almost, it's in post-production, right?
Yeah.
They have a trailer, so it's...
Yeah, I think that's pretty much done.
Yeah, and Justice League just started. Maybe that's where his influence can start taking hold a little bit more.
Yeah.
Definitely with the Batman thing, because he and Affleck have been partnering up on the Batman script writing. So,
right.
But yeah, hopefully, you know, I'll keep. I'm not gonna be those guys. I'm gonna say never say die, but still have some very low expectations at this point.
Yeah. Suicide Squad killed it for me. It was the 1-2 punch. Batman versus Superman was just a haymaker. Rocked my world. Didn't think it was going to be that bad, and it was so not what I thought it was going to be.
You're just done.
And then yeah, like I mean, no, I'm just not giving them any benefit of the doubt anymore. I can't afford to. So I'm just going to assume every movie's going to be super crappy. And when I go into it and watch it, and if I don't hate it outright, then I'll just be pleasantly surprised.
A success. Yay. It's a success if I go in and my expectations are met.
Yeah, you know, like...
Oh, man.
Yeah, so...
Dude, on a tangent, something you mentioned last week kind of made me depressed a little bit, is that this movie retroactively killed off Guardians of the Galaxy for you.
Yeah, man. Like, I can't watch Guardians anymore because it's the same as Suicide Squad.
That broke my heart, man. I was like, oh, Max.
I mean, but you can see where I'm coming from, though,
I
right?
get it.
Like, they ripped off Guardians so hard.
Yeah, I get it, but at the same time, I'm like, oh, man. Because Guardians of the Galaxy, for me, still is just like, I have fun with that movie still.
Yeah, it should be a lot of fun. And these guys just suck the life right out of it.
Well, here's hoping Wonder Woman can instill some goodwill back. Again, don't expect much, but at the same time, I want to give Patty Jenkins a shot. But we're going on to Wonder Woman, and this is The Chat Cave featuring Batman.
Yeah.
But I feel we've talked plenty about Batman and his rogues gallery in this installment for a while too. Oh my god.
Yeah, we've been on for a long time.
We had a lot of feelings about this film and about the other film too that we had to get out there. So I have a feeling every time a big DC movie comes around, just get a 2-hour block ready, man.
That's fair. That'd
All
be
right.
accurate.
Well, you've been listening to The Chat Cave here on McGTV. Again, that's youtube.com/Mike McGTV. And as always, I've been Mike McG and also joined by Max Andrews from Three Geeks Podcast. Check out youtube.com/Three Geeks Network and come back around here because Max and I and a couple other people, not just from Three Geeks, but also from NeverEndingRadicalDude.com, I'm trying to bring us all together. We're trying to form our own little Justice League here on the interwebs and get some corporate synergy going. That's right, corporate synergy. Yeah, get that working for us. So I got some new ideas for podcasts and shows. Hopefully we can get more of the nerd and Three Geeks crowd to intermingle and get some really cool interactions out of that. So stay tuned. Again, follow us on Twitter at Three Geeks Podcast or at Mike McGTV. Thanks again, Max Andrews.
Thank you.
Same bat time, same bat channel, old chum.